Wednesday, November 13th, 2023, interview of Delores Johnson by Lily and Darian at Lincoln Park Academy in Fort Pierce, Florida. This interview is being conducted in LPA's Centennial year to gather personal memories of Miss Johnson's experiences as a student at Lincoln Park Academy. Miss Johnson, thank you so much for agreeing to help us with this oral histories project. If at any point of the interview you would like to pause, you're more than welcome. Just let us know.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
So, I just need your permission. Do I have your permission to record this interview?
Yes.
Okay. So, what is your full name?
Delores Dale Hogan Johnson. I'm divorced, but I keep that.
Okay. So, where and when were you born?
Here in St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce.
Okay.
And November 3rd, 1949.
Oh,
so
your
I just
birthday.
celebrated my 74th birthday.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you.
So, were you in St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce, your entire life?
No. My sister, my oldest sister, husband was in the military, so I lived with them on and off a few different years. I went to school from, I think, first grade, kindergarten here, and then third grade. So fourth grade, I went with them to Kansas. First time I saw snow. Yep. And then fourth, I think, fifth, and I came back home for sixth grade. And I graduated from Chester A. Moore Elementary. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't there the whole year, but my brother-in-law had to go overseas, so I stayed with him. I came back, and ninth grade year was spent in San Antonio, Texas. Mm-hmm. So then I came back for 10th grade, 11th, and 12th, so I graduated here in the class of 1968.
Okay. So, what is your first memory in life?
First memory. Playing with the piano that I found out years later my mother played. I never learned. I always thought about playing, but playing with the piano and being carried by my brother. One of my brothers, he and I were pretty close. On his hip, he would take me all around walking.
Okay. So after you graduated Lincoln Park in 1968, how long have you lived in Fort Pierce since then, consecutively?
Consecutively. Because after I graduated, went to college. I came back and worked. I got married during that time. And I guess 8 or 9 years. And then in 83, I went to graduate school. And came back here, working in the St. Lucie County school system consecutively. Because during the time that, after I graduated college, Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, I worked for a while. At school, I filled in half a year for a teacher. So I worked several jobs, and then I went to graduate school, got my master's in counseling, and came back here. And was in the school system, and worked at the college, too, as a guidance counselor.
Okay. No? Okay. Why were you so drawn to coming back here all the time?
Because it was home.
Okay.
And I had grown quite a bit. I was pretty active in high school, student government. Graduated second in my class. I was the salutatorian. And just always felt good. This was home. And I developed, as a child, that's one of the things I remember being extremely shy. People that know me now said, shy? You were shy? Yes. But the traveling helped bring me out. So I would read and look around and see what was going on.
So, what college did you go to after you graduated LPA?
Fisk University, Nashville,
Fisk.
Tennessee. It was one of the historical black universities.
Okay.
So, tell me about your parents. Where are they from, and what did they do?
My father worked as on the railroad,
Okay.
working in, I think, he wasn't a pirate, he was a porter with the railroad, so he was traveling about. In his later years, he did citrus work. My mother worked as a domestic, a maid, and then she worked for the school system in the what do you call it? Janitor, cleaning schools and stuff.
Okay. So, do you have any siblings?
Pardon?
Do you have any siblings?
Oh, yes. There were 10 of us in all.
Oh, okay.
And a sister died when she was a baby at 10 months. So there were 9 of us that survived. But as age and what have you, we're down to 4. I'm the only girl left, but I have 3 brothers.
Did they attend LPA as well?
Some of them did.
Some of them? Okay. So what was your neighborhood like growing up?
Relatively quiet, but active
Okay.
during the times we were growing up, because we used to get in the road, especially on Sunday afternoon, and play kickball, play hopscotch, if you ever you know what that is. And the older guys' brothers would make these little wagons, and they were just it was interesting because they were made out of citrus boxes, and they would connect wires and wheels on them and had a little steering. It was very ingenious of them. So we would play with that, practice. We'd have races just in the neighborhood. And you hear the term now, takes a village.
To raise
And parents that didn't work looked out for the children in the neighborhood. And you better be good. Because you got told on, as they say.
So I know you did student government, but what other extracurriculars did you do at LPA?
It's in the Honor Society. Just volunteer work for teachers in the classroom. Just helping the teachers.
Kind of like we are.
Because in Lincoln Park in the beginning, we were first or K, probably first through 12th grade.
Yeah.
So, but it was an excellent school. Because if you read our history, we were one of the first accredited schools on the East Coast in this section. So we were proud of that. We had the best teachers in the world. Best teachers.
Do you remember any of them specifically?
Yeah. My biology teacher. She left the classroom and went into guidance and counseling, but she was fabulous. We used to work, of course, I was in advanced classes and stuff, and we said, okay, what are we doing today? And in her class was the first time I'd learned about DNA. And we had to do little projects. And I remember I had this long 18-inch zipper, a 30-something-inch zipper. And, it's what's deoxyribonucleic acid. And with the different ones, and then I pulled the zipper down, but when they came together, it was just,
I get that.
and we grew fruit flies, all of that, to study genetics. So it was good. It was good.
Did you do any sports at LPA?
No. I was very active in PE, but no sports.
All right. So overall, what was attending LPA like for you?
It was good. It was exciting. I came back in 10th grade. I attended school, John F. Kennedy High School in San Antonio. And I was supposed to be going over to Taiwan with my brother, my sister and brother. I call him my brother too because he and my sister married when she was senior in high school, and when she passed, they had been married like 62 years. So I have 7 brothers. He was number 8. So people look, your brother? Like it might have been incest or something. But I spoke of him like that because he was a brother. But we didn't get my passport and everything straight, and that's why I came back home. But my academics were good. That year I got the most outstanding freshman, and I had some good teachers there, and they saw my potential. So I just kept up that work. And again, I was extremely shy. So that's one of the key things I remember growing up. I think had it not been for them, I'm getting a little misty, but I wouldn't be as outspoken and questioning. I remember Miss Monroe, in fact, when I went off to college, she said, Delores, be very careful now. Be respectful when you question authority. And I said, I will, but I will question. And she said, but I will. Because my freshman year, when I went to Fisk, there was, and I think this is probably one of your questions, there was a movement on a lot of the historically black colleges called toward a more black university and college. And I remember freshman year, I was part of the group. We went into the social studies hall, and we locked ourselves in, and we were demanding things, a curriculum that really emphasized African American history. And they sent us home early that year. Telegrams went out. So we finished the semester earlier in December than we would have, but Stokely Carmichael, different ones had come to Nashville, and they were going around to the different schools. So that helped mold me into more activism and looking at authority, watching authority, and speaking to authority.
Okay.
So.
Well, I plan to ask this later on, but since you brought this up,
Okay.
Have you ever been in a situation where you experienced or practiced civil disobedience?
Not really. Like if I stood a chance of being arrested. Not quite.
Okay.
I think the closest probably was taking over Park Johnson Hall on Fisk University's campus.
Okay.
But it ended well. But I've taken part in demonstrations and standing, holding placards, organizing things. So I've been labeled an activist, and I call myself that too. And I try to instill in others that it was a part of, I think, in Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, where he talks about this government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I've run for public office before, too, here in the city. And I was elected for a short term to the Florida State House of Representatives. And part of my campaign, I talked about that. And I'll never forget the first time that I spoke on the floor of the House of Representatives in the state of Florida. Talked about us working together on both sides of the aisle. And usually, and you've probably seen pictures of it, they're just talking among themselves, both sides and stuff. So when the speaker recognized me and I got up and started talking, I saw heads turn and listen. So I'm sure they have that in the archives somewhere. But it was interesting, and I'm saying, I'm getting their attention. But it was talking about working together.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're here to represent,
Right.
because everybody cannot come to Tallahassee. But we must remember to represent well the will of the people. And during that time, and one of the questions I was asked during the time that I was being interviewed as a candidate, and we talked about home rule. If y'all, I don't know if you've discussed that yet, but it's where the local government is trying to govern, the counties and the cities. And we do have an administration. Under a different governor, it was pulling this way, but it's been uncomfortable to see how the powers that be, I'm getting poetic, have steadily tried to usurp the power of the local governments.
Yes.
And this is where the citizens have to come in, pay attention, speak up, and by the same token, the representatives say, this is what is happening. The city commissioners, the county commissioners,
Mm-hmm.
Because Tallahassee, state governments, not just Tallahassee, but this happens around quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to. I get in forums. I'm a part of organizations now, Democratic Women. I've been on the St. Lucie County, the executive committee. But I tell people all the time, this is our government. And we have to participate. And that's why I love to talk to young people. Because you guys are it. You're coming up. But pay attention and be a part of it. This is your government. You don't sit back and let stuff happen. You speak up and speak out. And they say, speak truth to power. And that's what you do. Have a strong religious faith. And I also tell people God has ordained law and order and governments. I always like to do a quote whenever I talk to elected officials. And it's 2 Samuel 23rd chapter, verse 3, that says, he who ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. And that's a basis that I see. And that's what I pray about daily, and be involved. And talk to you. They are representatives, our representatives. So we've got to pay attention to what they say and do. Yeah. So part of my life's work has been over the years to get people involved and inspire them.
So, what do you consider to be the greatest challenges that are facing our community, state, or nation today?
People just have this certain people, a huge appetite for power and money. And we must watch and be careful. It's a question. I'm also an environmentalist.
Right.
It's part of my activity. I'm president of St. Lucie Waterfront Council. We're not as active as we used to be, but it was a fantastic situation because, God created a beautiful earth. And my daily prayer is that we understand that the quality of our lives and the length of our days are predicated upon the quality of our air, our land, and our water. So we've got to be strong and better stewards of what is left, and watch this. Because we had a campaign against our port becoming a cargo port. And in the environmental movement, this was like 93, 94, there weren't a whole lot of people that looked like me and you. But I love this county and this city. We've got a huge county here, y'all. And you see development all around now. But we've got to be careful of our wetlands and our waterways and our land and our air. So I've been active. In fact, I used to call us we were a problem to some people, but we were the more active arm, and there's another word that's not coming to me right now, of the environmental groups. Because we held, and we have a storage thing of paperwork and news articles, but we were on the front page of the Tribune when it used to be a daily paper, and it was the Army Corps of Engineers, because they were gonna, if you know anything about our county and learn more in our shoreline, the beach renourishment, and that's what was happening. And there's a sandbar out on the ocean about 3 miles out called Capron Shoals. And it's sand, and they go out and bring the sand in and help build the beaches back up. And they were going into an area, you've heard of Harbor Branch.
Yes.
And Harbor Branch brings in worldwide scientists and grad students and what have you. So there, and I remember the name. Let me go back to we're the more militant arm of the environmental groups. And, but the scientists had found, and I remember that bryozoans, they were microscopic animals that they thought that possibly had some cancer curative properties about them. So it was just a section, we're talking 20 miles, and they decided to go in there. And we had a member of our group, he's passed away now, but he was a Yale, because we were talking, some members of my group, and I would call him a Harvard grad. And he said, no, he was at Yale. But anyway, Gil was, he became a oil tanker captain. And he joined our group because he said, I was doing penance for all the oil I've wasted in the oceans around the world. But he had some contacts in D.C., and they got to a federal judge. And our thing was, we didn't want to stop the Army Corps,
Right.
but not on that part, because it had scientific significance, you know. And so the paper said it was stopped, losing $1 million a day. So we negotiated and just told them it was not to stop the work because our beaches needed the sand, but not from there. So we settled it. But those are the kinds of things we got involved in. And I'm still watching. Here we are.
So how would you, I'm sorry. So what would you say are the greatest challenges that you faced in your life?
Oh, leaving Fort Pierce, being super shy, and having to go to school in another state, in cold, and adjusting. My brother-in-law teased me for about 2 or 3 days, and it was snowing. And they had a small house, and I slept on the sofa in the living room, you know. And I would look out, and finally, he said, sis, really, it's snowing today. Because I said, oh, you're messing with me. And I opened up. It was beautiful to see the snow covering everything. But anyway, and just going to school, and many times I was the only one in my class that looked like me, you know. So I had to come out of my shell. So that was challenging, you know. And but it helped. The other thing, later in life, I developed breast cancer. The first time it was found was in 1996. So I had, you know, surgery, and again in 2008. So I'm good, but those were true challenges. Yeah. And I got more involved in health issues, healthcare issues, and talking to people. Mm-hmm. And again, remembering scripture that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And I pray and I tell people that with all the medications and all of that we cannot medicate ourselves to good health. And medications do have their place in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my good friend, my classmate, Gertrude Walker, she and I were here at Lincoln Park. We were talking this about 6, 7 years ago. And she said, Delores, have you seen so many nephrology clinics going up, kidney centers?
Yeah.
And part of that, we got to talking about that people are taking all these drugs to feel better and do better. But there are two key filters in our bodies, the kidney and the liver. And all of this, everything we take into our bodies, that we eat, drink, pills, drugs, all of that, goes through the kidneys and the liver. And we damage it. So we have to be careful.
So, did you ever experience racial discrimination here in Fort Pierce?
In Fort Pierce, not really, but I knew it was there. I would hear stories. I would see when our classroom books and what have you, we would see Dan McCarty written or stamped in the books, and certain students' names. And we got the discards. They got the new one. Part of the folklore of Lincoln Park was that this school, the original school, and the gymnasium especially, was supposed to be Dan McCarty, and they claimed it just got mixed up. Because for the longest time, our gym was one of the largest gyms along the east coast of Florida as far as high schools go. So, but yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it, but not, anything. Oh, and one of the things, in 1968, Florida had its first and only teacher strike. So that was a milestone, and it was our senior year. So to make sure that we graduated on time, all of us had to go to, guess where? Dan McCarty. Prior to that, we did have some white teachers that came on campus then and were part of our faculty, but of course no students. So I thought that it was an excellent thing to see, and we got along really well. I don't know if y'all have talked to Lee Ernest Ryan. He's one of, in fact, I intended to bring his book.
Look at his contacts.
Yes, because he's one of our graduates. He was president of our student council. And Lee Ernest went on to become the lead person with Lockheed Martin in Atlanta. And he retired as one of their top people. And his story, in fact, I bought a couple of books. I've got to give him, I'll talk to Ms. Harrington tomorrow, but I want to make sure y'all get the first, get the copy. And I'll loan you mine. I haven't gone through it all together yet, but it's a fantastic story. And he was born in Georgia originally, but raised here. And he's a proud Greyhound. And in his book, he talks a lot about it. But anyway, we went over there, and we had a great time. The teachers, because many of the teachers and most of the students had not been in an integrated setting.
Right.
But we were well behaved, and we were very bright, and they saw that. They saw that. I remember going to a physics class, we were talking and working on some stuff, and we were bouncing this ball. I just remember vaguely, we had to measure, the bounce. But anyway, it felt good for them to see and appreciate Lincoln Park Academy and the students were top notch.
Yes. So, what significant historical events do you remember hearing about or experiencing growing up that influenced you or had an impact on you?
Well, Martin Luther King and his death. And before, prior to. And the church was very strong. And looking at the involvement of the community and paying attention to what was going on around the world in these United States. And the peaceful demonstrations, as peaceful as we could be.
Right.
So the struggle. And it's disparaging to see that there are people who would try to take that back, the right to vote, disenfranchisement. And we can't stand for that.
So,
we will not.
So would you say that you're seeing patterns of history repeat right now?
Some of them, and they're trying very hard, with the courts, with legislatures, legislators, and how they're being so hypocritical. I look at the situation in Texas with the woman who, with her birth of her child or the caring of a child, and how legislatures, when I was in the legislature, and it's still going on, they would not extend Medicaid for people who needed it. It was, and then when COVID came along, the need grew even more. But there was not a movement on the opposition side to do anything. So, in looking at that and just seeing how hypocritical they are, that they will tell a woman, and I think they feel they're doing something, we're stopping that woman from having an abortion. And personally, I don't condone abortions, but I will fight to the end for the right of a woman to make that choice. Always.
Yeah.
I remember getting into a conversation, not an argument, a conversation in one of the grocery stores several years ago. And they started talking about abortion. And we got to how I feel, and I basically told them, and making that statement about protecting the right. And I said, part of that is centered around my feeling again when God Almighty gives us a choice to choose him in eternal life or Satan in eternal damnation. Who am I to judge? There's nobody standing before the judgment throne. But each of us individually, so you've got to watch that.
So, when you attended LPA, did you ever feel inspired to become an author because of Zora Neale Hurston, or it was?
I think back on her and did not. I was in elementary school during the time that she was here, so right now, and I've been told, and I feel this, I have a book in me to write. And eventually, hopefully, and I ask for length of days in order to do that. And but just staying involved and staying up on the issues that we need to deal with as citizens of this city, of this county, of this nation, and of this world. We all have a part to play and contributions to make. Marks on the world. I've gotten involved internationally in Liberia, West Africa. In 2004, they had the Civil War. Did y'all ever hear the movie Blood Diamonds?
I did watch it, actually.
After I went to Liberia, because Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, all on the west coast of Africa, and Charles Taylor, y'all read about him. He's in The Hague, finally. But child soldiers, you've heard that name. They would kidnap kids from the north, south, east, and west, switch them up so they'd be separated from their families and teach them to kill.
Yeah.
They could take apart a gun, put it back together, but some couldn't read or write. So when we first went there in 2004, my good friend, I call him my brother, is the president of our organization, we went back and we wrote up a program to help educate the child soldiers. And I remember we were going to City Hall meeting with the military because the first few years the United Nations took over. They were basically the military for Liberia. Charles Taylor fled the country, and it was called UNMIL, the United Nations Mission in Liberia. And my good friend, he's passed away, but Alcee Hastings, part of his district used to be up here, the 23rd district, but he and our fellow alumnus or alumni from Fisk University, he and I remained good friends until his death. But he wrote us a letter, so it was like our entree. We got to meet the ambassador, just different people that we talked to about our program. And we met with the ambassador. His name was Mr. Blaney, or recalling some of these names. And the guy that was over USAID, we were talking about our program and what we wanted to do. We couldn't stay. My mother was going into Alzheimer's, but we wanted to get it set up. That part was never realized totally, but we supported. We helped establish a college there, a community college. In fact, Jerome talked me into, my mother and I have a scholarship there, and we're giving to students with tuition, those who are going into education. And but we got a feel of what war is like. And I know when we came back, we spoke to several groups, and I talked about the insanity of a war.
Yeah.
So you have to be crazy to bombard and destroy your own country. And Liberia is so blessed with rubber, oil they found recently, but precious stones, gold, lumber. It's amazing. But they've been abused and stuff over the years. But I spoke, and whenever I spoke, in fact, I was the commencement speaker for the graduating class in 2021. Jerome and I went over. And wherever I went prior to that, I would tell them, and we're trying to complete a clinic over there. We've started too. But I tell them, and I would tell them, and I still do, that an educated nation and a healthy nation is a powerful nation. So that's become my motto, over the years. So hopefully we'll be going back in February of next year. They have a graduating class then. So we're still helping out.
What do you consider to be the greatest inventions or other improvements in your lifetime?
Oh, computer that I'm still technically challenged with. But, of course, medicines and everything. I think about my battle with cancer and the drugs that were used in '96 as opposed to what is being used now. So, God has blessed us with the ingenuity, the researchers, and the discoveries. It's just awe-inspiring.
So what teachers here in LPA inspired you the most?
All of them, for the most part. We just had some excellent teachers. History, U.S. history, world history, English, all of them. But science, because I was thinking about going into medicine at one part. And in college, I was health and physical education with a pre-med curriculum. But that's why I've stayed in it. And doing battle with cancer, you learn even more. But But I like to encourage people and remind them they've got to look after their bodies. And to be reminded that we're the most important person on our healthcare team. I speak to young people and older people the same way. I was at during October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I was at a Council on Aging little event, and there were some people in there, and they talked about how intimidated they felt in talking to some of their doctors, afraid to ask. But I know with me, I talked to the doctors, I asked questions, and this was my oncologist at the time, and he told me, he said, some doctors won't admit this, but we like intelligent patients. So remember that and share that. Question stuff. Because I would get this is before they put everything on the computer, but how they put the folders in the little pocket. I'd get it out while I'm waiting and read, because it was mine. It was about me. But I had some excellent doctors. I do.
What would you say is your favorite memory from LPA?
Just the involvement of the teachers working on science projects. I love the science fair and preparing for prom, because we used to have it right here on campus in the gymnasium. And coming to the basketball games, football games. Yeah. I think there was a question about classmates.
Yeah. How would your classmates remember you? How would your classmates remember you?
As bright, smart.
Shy, maybe?
No, I was coming out of shy. I was selected best speaker in my class. So, yep. It was, and we're still close. During our time, the Vietnam War, that was devastating. It was devastating. I often call it, and Misty again, it was an obscene war. With the Agent Orange and the drugs, the alcohol that my classmates and others had to endure. It was terrible. I remember a classmate was telling me, we were talking, and he said the black market, they said they would have earth movers over there, like bulldozers, dump trucks and things. And 2 weeks later, you didn't know where they were. The industries, they were in cahoots, and they do it now, not so much so. But that was an obscene war because it affected so many people, let alone the Vietnamese. Everybody. And this is why we must be careful. And I'm concerned with what's happening in Gaza and Israel. And that comes from people not being as concerned as they should for the safety of their people. So, we gotta pay attention. Speak up and speak out.
So do you remember how you found out about the 9/11 attack? Or like where you were?
Oh,
how you found out what happened?
I was here. I was working at Lincoln Park Academy. We had an after-school program called 21st Century, and the then principal asked me to oversee it. So we were having a meeting at Garden City at the time, and one of the teachers or supervisors said they just hit the World Trade Center. And so, of course, we get to a TV and start looking. And so I started getting phone calls later because we came back to the school and stuff. I have a niece that lived in Manhattan. In fact, she lived along the West Side Highway And you could go out before they got in-house in parking inside. They parked on the street, and when you looked down, you could see the Twin Towers. And so her grandmother, she's my brother's daughter, but she's my child. I just didn't give birth to her. But and she had gotten pregnant. She had lost one child, and she told no one could reach her. But I tried on my cell phone, and I guess because of the satellites, I was able to reach her. So I had to call other families and stuff to tell them she was all right. Because she had started, and they didn't even know at the time because they were busy. Because she had started spotting, and she was just real, I don't want to lose this baby kind of thing. And when they walked across to get in the car to go to the hospital, they saw the second tower dropping, and she was sharing this with me. And she told me the day before, she said, because they were both teaching at the time, she and her husband, they were coming across the Brooklyn Bridge from Brooklyn, and her husband commented, said, look at the clouds. I'd never seen like the Twin Towers are sitting on clouds. And she said that night, at that time she had been in New York City for about 3 or 4 years, had never seen or heard a thunderstorm like that. And I said, well, when y'all were passing, that was the calm before the storm, And as a counselor at the time, I was still a counselor at IRCC at the time. I was a college counselor. And I talked to one of my students, and they were sharing with me that her best friend was either she was in her wedding or each other's wedding. And she said she had called her to talk about her husband. He was so distraught because he worked downtown and he saw people jumping out of the windows at the Trade Center. So it was a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing.
Who had the greatest influence on you as a child or now as an adult?
My mother, and I wrote down here the Trinity. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Is there a person that really changed the course of your life by something that they did?
Not a human being. I've been influenced
Right.
by people who encouraged me, mentors, what have you, who saw some leadership qualities in me and encouraged me to get involved in politics and community organizing. But several people.
What has provided you the most satisfaction in life?
What?
What has provided you the most satisfaction?
Helping people. As a guidance counselor. And encouraging people.
So what's something you would ask or tell your senior or high school self in general?
The students? Or
something you would ask or tell your younger self, high school self?
Basically what I did, pay attention, get involved, speak up, and do it respectfully. As my teacher, and she wasn't a guidance counselor at the time, but was a teacher. You go off the fifth, be careful, though, question. I said, I'll be respectful, but I will say something. But it's been overall a good life.
So from your perspective, how have you seen Lincoln Park Academy evolve as a school?
I was pleased. I taught out here briefly when they had made this an 8th grade center. 1970, I think, was the last graduating class. And but there was a fight to to bring it back. And then we became the academic magnet school. So that helped greatly. Because we were an excellent school. We had teachers, good students. 1990 was the first graduating class after it had gone through the transformation. And some of the dress codes and different things were strict. I helped enforce them as a team. But I'm concerned, COVID didn't help our situation with discipline, with dress. Because I firmly believe that dress, how you carry yourself and present yourself, is important. And obedience to the teachers in the classroom. I would come up sometimes and talk to students. And I would tell them, when you cross that doorway, it's business. Why are you here? I used to ask students, even when I went back into counseling, I would see them in the dean's office. Even middle school, why are you here? Where's the rest of your class? And they're looking. I said, where's the rest of your class? They're in the classroom. And I said, what happened? Why are you sitting here? What? But just getting them to think and understand. We're here for serious business. You've got to watch behavior.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are kids who, they floated. COVID did so much damage to the education situation. Because I talk to people even now, and they talk about the way things have been. And I said, yeah, you tell them to be quiet. You want me to what? Sit down and do what? Pay attention? To learn? Yes. And we've got to get back to that. But we've got to support the teachers. With Lincoln Park Academy in our history, and we came back as a magnet school, we got some of the best in St. Lucie County. And it's a natural thing that people brag about where they're going. I'm going to Lincoln Park. Oh, we're the, John Prince even said, oh, you're the flagship. But there was a lot of jealousy with that. And unfortunately, there were those powers that be that started taking things away from Lincoln Park and not giving us all the support, putting programs at other schools that our kids can stay here and get the same thing. So there are a group of us out there, and me included, will approach the school board to say, all of the schools in St. Lucie County can be great and not at the detriment of the minimalization of any one school. But we've got to give them what they need. And all the students. We've had, and being 74 years old, I've seen the school district get more resources than we've ever had. And we've got to bring them together and work together. We got school social workers. I had plenty of jobs. I was a school social worker, guidance counselor, dean of students. And I would often tell, you're not using the school social workers as well as you should. Because I would go into homes, I'd go on jobs finding parents. The child out here acting a fool. We got to do something. But working together for the good. We've got guidance counselors, school social workers, the dean, the SROs, and they're not doing all they can do either. the social agency guidance counselors. I mean, the resources are there, and we've got to bring it all together. Because you cannot ask a teacher to try to teach when there's a child disrupting. And sometimes more than one.
Yeah.
But we don't want you to suspend him. But hey, bring in the resources that you have. Because no child should ever disrupt his own learning, let alone every child in that classroom, and prevent a teacher from teaching. But this is the message I will be taking to our school board and our school board members.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all have to speak up too. That you want to learn and you have something to say. And I know as with your peers, you don't want to come down hard and heavy on them. But you can tell an adult what's going on. I was, as a guidance counselor, I was like the crisis counselor, I'll call it. When kids, we had one year like 5 or 6 sixth graders cutting themselves, the little mutilation thing, and I would have to call student services. And see, that's another arm of resource that we have in talking with parents and getting the resources that child needed. I had, I guess, a gift of sorts that I get it out of what was going on. And I've had many, many parents thank me. And they were hurt and saying, this was happening to my child. So we got to work together.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get on now.
You can keep it unless Lily has to leave out or ride.
Oh, yeah.
But, so what do you want to do? Do you want to continue it? Or do you want to?
Y'all about finished, right?
I'm done with all my questions. So if you'd like to ask any questions, you're more than welcome to.
I think I asked all mine already.
Okay.
Okay.
You sure? So do you want to continue it?
Yeah. I suppose this is the end of our interview.
Okay.